Okay. Hey everyone, this is Andy Lamb. It's a first of hopefully one of many short, sharp podcasts or video podcasts with interesting people from around the world, predominantly focused on, what are some of the tricky things around doing corporate innovation and creativity. For the first one, hot off the press, I've got the wonderful Duncan Wardle. Who's ex-Disney, sitting in Florida while I'm in Perth. So, hey, Duncan, how you going?
Hello, I'm all right. Thank you very much. You?
Good, man. Good. So do you just want to give us a couple of quick things around an introduction, and then we can get into what we're going to talk about?
Sure. Yes, my name's Duncan. I got to work for Disney, man and boy, embryo, all the way through to the ripe old age of 50. I worked there 30 years, started as a coffee boy in the London office, worked my way through to head of innovation and creativity for the last 10 years. Got to work on some mad projects with Marvel, Lucasfilms, Pixar. Mad Ideas Are Us is what I really think my department should have been called, but it was innovation and creativity. And really, our role for the last 10 years was to how to scale innovation, how to really scale it up and embed innovation into everybody's DNA, which I think is probably one of the biggest challenges companies are facing at the moment. We learned a lot of lessons, didn't get everything right. But from that, you learn and you move on.
So you mentioned you tried lots of different things. I think one of the big things that organisations do is they don't have a long enough focus to go through trying to embed some of that thinking in their culture. So what's your experience with what people would predominantly see as a really creative organisation of Disney, and a couple of learnings as you went through, and a couple of things that you tried as you went through that process as well?
Yeah, so first things I did, so I got a call from the chairman. He said, you're the guy with all the big ideas. You're going to be in charge of innovation. So my response was, what the hell is that? And so I decided we surveyed 5,000 people, Pixar, Lucasfilms, Disney, Marvel. What were the barriers to being more innovative and creative in a corporate environment? And we found 5 big ones, none of which will come as a huge surprise. Time, or lack thereof to think, still considered the number one barrier. Risk averse, we've got quarterly results to meet. Ideas get stuck, diluted, or killed as they move through the organization. Consumer insight is underused. We're still a very product centric, we build it, they will come organization. And then everybody had a different definition of innovation. So we're all heading in different directions. And so out of that, we tried 3 different approaches. 2 failed, but good learnings, right? Because number 1 was, let's go hire an innovation guru, one of the big consultancies like an IDEO. And so what happens is you go hire an IDEO, they come and work for you for 3 months on an innovation project. They're brilliant at what they do. They will give you a great recommendation. It will drive good ROI, and then they'll leave. And then you sit around and talk to each other and say, "Hey, what the hell have I learned?
Yeah.
Can we do what they? Can we do what they did?" And you're like, "No, of course not." Well, why not? Well, because they're not going to show you how they did it, because you wouldn't hire them again. So, okay, so you could keep hiring them, that, and
at good rates as well.
Right. Yeah. Option two, create an innovation department, of which I was head.
With a strategy.
When you but here's the challenge. When you've got 54 people and you're trying to change a culture of hundreds of thousands of people, you are kidding yourselves if you think you're going to do it by yourself. And so, because when you create an innovation department, the message you subconsciously send to the rest of the organization is, "Hey, don't worry about it, guys. These guys have got it. You're off the hook." Yeah. And so you thought, okay, that one's not working. So option 3, and this is where I see a gap in the market. And that's why I decided, because people think, why the hell did you leave Disney after 30 years? Because there's a gap in the market. The consultancies aren't helping embed a culture of innovation right across your organization. The innovation teams aren't doing it either. And you've got all these big legacy brands who, from 1910 to 2010, this is the way we do it here, and it worked. Well, guess what? It doesn't work anymore. You've got 3 things coming up in the next decade that will be, I think, the most disruptive decade, certainly of my life. You've got artificial intelligence, right, coming strong. Robots that will think thousands of times more faster than the human race by 2030. You've got cultures, legacy brands trying to move from that product-centric, we build it, they will come, a culture to a consumer-centric one, but their CEOs still remember the good old days when we built it, they will come. And they're obsessed with their quarterly results. So to your point, they're making short-term decisions. Yep. And then you've got Generation Z coming up underneath the millennials who care more about purpose than profit. And what the big legacy brands are beginning to realize is not only will these people not buy their products and services if they don't believe in their purpose, they don't want to work for them either. So I created a toolkit. All I did was take a design thinking process, creative problem solving, and dumb it down. And dumb it down so Fred and Sally can use it. Fred and Sally are good people. They've worked for their companies for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. But they've been told so often that they're not creative and that they can't innovate, that they believe that they're not creative. People define creativity madly, I think, as the ability to paint, write, or draw. I'm like, no, the creativity for me is the ability to think creatively and come up with new ideas. I think anybody could do it. Organizations, all the CEOs are like, you need to be brave, you need to take risks. But what we're not doing at the moment is teaching them how. And people are like, okay, I know you want me to be brave. I know you want me to take smart risks. I know you want me to innovate. How do I do that? And nobody's showing people how. And so I thought, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to create a toolkit that takes innovation and makes it easy, tangible, and fun. And a lot of companies push back when you say the word fun because they're like, oh no, we've got to drive business results. Well, of course you have to drive business results. It's creativity with purpose. But you can't, if you want Fred and Sally to use those tools when you're not around, right? That's when you know you're changing the culture. You have to give them tools that they want to use when you're not around, and therefore they have to be easy, tangible, and fun. And so that's what I've done. I've just created my own design thinking toolkit and getting inside organizations. And it's been, it's been a year and a half. It's been a blast. I've been working for Apple in the last 12 months, Nike, MBA, doing an adjunct professor gig at Yale, traveled out to Australia with the Change the World team, got to help 1,000 charities out there. It was fantastic. And it's lovely to see people who have been told for so long they're not creative. Actually, you get it. I love workshops versus keynotes, because keynotes, you can inspire and motivate in 45 minutes. You can't help people. People learn by doing, they don't learn by listening. And so you get in the room with people for a day, and you'll see that light bulb go off in everybody's eyes during the day. And I take enormous pride for that.
That's fantastic. I think so. As you were going through that process, did you? I guess one of the things that I've seen as well is this this desire to, when things don't work, is to approach people and ask what is best practice. It hasn't worked to date, so surely somebody knows what is best practice around creativity and innovation. And the more money we spend and the higher up the corporate ladder we go with these external people, is surely they're going to have all the answers. So what's your thoughts on that sort of best practice approach to innovation?
Yeah, I think what we found a consistent model was, the CEO has to buy in. If the CEO and the senior stakeholders don't buy into it, then you'll set up for failure from the get-go. Everybody says they want innovation, but what they really want is to meet their quarterly results. So that's called iteration. And I think that a lot of best practices are going to get a lot of people out of business really quickly. So, take a giant motor company, one of the biggest motor companies on the planet. I've been doing some consulting for them the last few months. Their biggest challenge right now is their own expertise. They've got 120 years worth of experience of, I know how to make a car and I'm really good at it. But here's the thing. Now you've got Google and Apple coming in saying, hey, we don't know how to make a car. By the way, don't think you need a steering wheel. Well, which of those brands do you think will be successful in the automotive industry in the next 10 years? So you look at Tesla, they're not making cars, they're making software products. And so it's not a car. It's kind of like the iPhone. The iPhone's not an iPhone, it's everything. And so best practices, I don't know. I think innovation is about trying something different. And so to rely too heavily on best practice can get you caught very quickly in iteration. I'll give you an example of what I consider iteration and the importance of purpose, which people are missing out on. I was just asked, and this is, again, there's no best practice here. I was asked to do some work for a tool company, the world's leading brand of tools. And I thought, God, what can I teach them about innovation? So I thought, well, I better learn a bit more about their business. So I went and spent a day with their consumer. I went down to 2 big DIY stores, and I just listened to their consumer at the point of purchase, and I observed them. And I went back to the brand and said, hey guys, the Generation Z, they're not talking about your brand. They don't care about your brand. They're not talking about the price point, $15.95 or $17.25. They're not even talking about the tool, the hammer, the chisel, or the saw. What they're talking about very animatedly and very excitedly amongst themselves is, we're going to build our dream house, our dream bathroom, our dream living room. And so your purpose, if you choose to accept it, is you could be the brand who helps people build their dreams. Now, wow, what a noble cause for a tool company. But if you're now a brand who can help people build their dreams, what other lines of business could you get into and move yourself out of the tool industry? But because they're maniacally focused on quarterly results, they're like, no, we need to drive our quarterly results. Yeah, great. And you'll be a tool company for about another 8 years, because you don't have a purpose. If you had a purpose, and it was, we can help people build their dreams, you could expand outside of the tool industry. And they were like, why would we want to do that? I was like, well, guess what? We're printing houses in Houston, Texas today, houses on a 3D printer. So now fast forward, 10 years ago, we didn't have an iPhone. 10 years from now, what will you buy on Amazon that you print at home? Think of the billions of dollars that Amazon spends on shipping, production, and storage today. But if you can print that product 10 or 15 years from today in your living room, think of the money Amazon will save on shipping, storage, and production. It's in their interest for you to have a 3D printer. Now, I can't tell you if it's 10 years or 15 years, but it's coming. I can't tell you if you'll print the chair in your living room, or maybe you go to the local printers because you need a bigger printer. If you can print anything you want on demand 15 years from today, what will you be using the hammer, the chisel, or the saw for? Oh yeah, you'll be looking at them in museums. And I think that's the problem, because they're resting on best practice of, they know how their sales tools work to drive their quarterly results. We're going to expand our tool operation into third world markets. Okay, great. But what about the future? And I think too many of the public facing companies are too constrained by their quarterly results, and that's what's getting them into trouble.
Yeah, so it's ultimately it's driving that risk averseness as they go through the situation. So I think one of the things I just wanted to finish off with, because I want to keep these down to sort of 10 or 15 minutes, because I think we're all time poor, so we don't have an hour for a podcast, is hiring people outside of your industry to basically challenge the status quo and to really kind of poke the bear. What are your thoughts on that inside an organization to start to get people to move in the right direction?
Okay, so when we get off this, I've got to ask what poke the bear means. But you're on my favorite topic, because here's the thing. Innovation, more often than not, could have your industry. It doesn't come from industry. And so, for example, Listerine, right? Listerine used to sell the big bottles, the small bottles, the multicolored bottles, and they were always in the bottom corner of Walgreens. But they looked outside of their industry for inspiration, and they saw a pharmaceutical company in Tokyo that used to made a female contraceptive on a meltable strip. And they said, hey, wait a minute, what if we could do that. We'll call it Listerine Pocket Packs. We'll make our annual sales goals in 28 days. And now, instead of being on the bottom right-hand corner of every pharmacy, they're in the checkout counter of every store on the planet. Yeah. And so that was about looking outside of your industry. I call them naive experts. For me, a naive expert is somebody who I always bring into an ideation session, simply because they don't know what I'm working on. And because they don't work for me, which gives them permission to ask the silly question that we're all too embarrassed to ask in front of our peers, or to throw out the audacious idea, not constrained by politics, turf, or who they report to. The role of the naive expert is not to solve your challenge for you. That's unfair. But they will say something to get you out of your river of thinking, your river of expertise, and help you think differently. And so to me, diversity is innovation. If people don't look the same as you, they don't think the same as you. And if they don't think the same as you, they will help you think different. So just one example, we were designing a retail dining and entertainment complex for Hong Kong Disney. And I brought in a load of Imagineers, the architects, but they were all architects, white, male, 50, and American.
Yep.
So I brought in a chef from Hong Kong. She was female, under 30, Chinese, and a chef, not an architect. So I asked them all to draw a house, and everybody drew the same thing, as I knew they would, two windows, bars over the door at the front, a triangle. Except her, she drew dim sum architecture, which all of us laughed when we held our pictures up, because we all realized we stayed in the river of thinking of what a house should look like. She gave us permission to get out of that river of thinking and think differently and consider audacious architecture. On the way out the door, somebody actually slapped a post-it note over her picture which said, distinctly Disney, authentically Chinese, some architecture. And 7 years later, the strategic brand position for Shanghai Disney Resort distinctly Disney, authentically Chinese. So again, role of the naive expert is not to solve the challenge for you, but it is to say something to get you out of your river of thinking, your river of expertise, and help you think differently. And I bring one into every session. And I think, to your point, looking at, so for example, many years ago, BMW were looking to make their cars go faster and more fuel efficient. And they actually had 2 engineers go work on a steam injection system for a new cappuccino machine that they wanted to create. Because you remember the old days of the old cappuccino machine with the little silver bar that came out the side of it, and nothing ever happened. So they decided to take it on. But here's the thing, the principles they learned from that steam injection system, they applied against the fuel injection system on the BMW M series, and it works extremely well.
Very good. Very good. Fantastic. All right. So sticking to time, we are officially done. Thank you very much. We will get this up in some format. There's been a couple of little stutters on the video. I think there's a whole bunch of other things we can probably get into as well. So thank you very much for your time. I'm sure we will speak again, and we'll work out what we're going to call this thing. Maybe we can get some other.
I think we should
involved as well.
Poke the bear.
Poke the bear. All right,
whatever that is.
I'll tell you in a minute.
All right.
Thank you very much, everyone, and we will see you back with episode 2, probably with me and Duncan to start with, but we'll see if we can get some other crazy people involved as well. Thanks a lot, mate.
Cheers, bye.